Hey, how's it going, fight fans? Welcome to mindforcombat. If you're new here, my name's Rohan, and this is episode 6 of my series called As Requested, where you decide which videos I will be making by commenting in the comment section below. I'll pick out a comment at random and make that video every Monday. So every Monday I make a video based on your suggestions at random in the comment section below. All you have to do is comment below, and if you happen to have a channel, then I give your channel a shout out. If you don't have a channel, then I pick a random channel to give out a shout out to. But this video is going to be a little bit different because I feel like it's very important that I pay homage to a couple of recent boxers that have passed away. So instead of a channel shout out, I'll be giving my quick thoughts and condolences on the recent losses that have been suffered in the sports of boxing, and yeah, we'll get into that. But anyways, for this video, the request comes from my boy Eric Gall, and he's got his own channel, Tale of the Tape, and obviously I've linked it below before. I've given it a shout out before. I'll always forever be down to give this channel a shout out because I really think a lot of what they do, the delivery, him and his brother-in-law P-Rod, they're both great guys, and if you ain't already, then check them out. But anyways, for this video, he's asked me, who are some of your favorite mid-tier fighters that never made it, that never broke the ranks? And the example he gave me is someone like John McDessie. Now, this is kind of a hard one for me to kind of categorize in my mind, because in my mind I'm thinking mid-tier, how do you define a mid-tier fighter? So what I've gone with, any fighter that maybe never broke top 5 in the world. So he was never a top 5 fighter in the world, or even if he was, it was a very short stay top 5 fighter, and someone that was always good, not a complete journeyman, not a complete bum, but just a good, solid, all-round, durable, talented fighter who maybe wasn't the best in the world, and that's how I've gone about this. So I picked out 4 fighters that I felt like personified some of my favorite mid-tier fighters that I ever watched in mixed martial arts, and these guys I'm actually really excited for this great video idea, by the way, bro. So at number 4, I'm going to have Chris Lights Out Lytle, and he's one of the most fan-friendly fighters there ever was. I think a lot of you guys who, anyone that watches my channel is a hardcore MMA fan or a boxing fan, and I think we can all appreciate Chris Lights Out Lytle. We actually competed in professional boxing as well, so that's a funny one, because so he went 13 wins with 1 loss and 1 draw in professional boxing, and left boxing on a 8-fight win streak, if I remember correctly. So Chris Lights Out Lytle was a great fighter, personified everything I loved about martial arts, was down to fight everyone. A mixed martial artist who went 31 wins, 18 losses and 5 draws. So it's a very humble record he had. He had a lot of losses, but he was a great fighter. He was the true embodiment of everything that you wanted to watch. And if you wanted to get a fight fan or a friend into MMA, then he was the guy that you wanted him to have watched, because he would likely want to see more of his fight. He was a true fight of the night bonus magnet at the time. You think he had like 20 professional fights in the UFC. And he actually, funny enough, despite him being a mid-tier fighter his entire career and having 18 losses on his record, to finish off his career, he went 5-1, beat Dan Hardy in the main event of UFC on Versus, I think it was back then, and beat Dan Hardy in the main event. And before that, he had lost to Brian Ebbsole, but before that, he was on a 4-fight win streak. He retired in 2011, and some of the guys that he had fought and had beaten included guys like Dan Hardy himself, who I mentioned, Matt the Terra Serra, Matt Brown not once but twice, and he beat Matt Brown before he went on his win streak. He beat Robbie Lawler, and he fought Robbie Lawler, and he fought Nick Diaz. So he had been around for a long time. He was a great fighter, super exciting, really durable, really tough, and he was just a really fun guy to have around. He also seemed like a great dude generally. With every interview I saw of him, obviously how much can I tell from an interview, but he just seemed like a great guy. And he's definitely a guy, if you haven't checked him out, then check him out. At number 3, I got another guy that I really enjoyed seeing. I used to watch him in Cage Rage here on the British Sword, and then he went on to do good things in America. And whilst he was never a world champion, he's a guy that I really enjoyed and really appreciated his style. This is Jorge Rivera. Jorge Rivera, the El Conquistador, was one of my favorite fighters to be throwing down at the time he was, and it still bothers me that his fight with Alessio Sakara never happened. That was a fight I really wanted. So anyways, he retired at 40 years old with a win over Eric Red Schaefer, and he had a professional record of 20 wins and 9 losses when he retired in 2012. He had fought the likes of Anderson Silva, Michael Bisping. He had those are some big names. Obviously, that controversial thing with Michael Bisping when he spat in the corner, illegal knees, and all the rest of that jazz. But Jorge Rivera himself was a great striker. You're going to see that I tend to lean towards strikers because I'm a striker myself. So yeah, he was a great fighter, really fun to have around. Seemed like a great dude, had a great backstory. Really sad what had happened to him when he lost his daughter, and I really got behind him. I enjoyed watching him fight, and he's actually picked up mixed martial arts at 25 years old and ended up having nearly 30 professional fights, had a great career, great run in the UFC. He's a guy that deserves a lot of attention. So if you never checked him out, Jorge Rivera is another guy, so that's my number 4. At number 2, I've got a guy who's still active now, a guy that may be about to change the course of his career. Is a guy who may be able to break into the top 5 and may be able to do stuff, still only 29 years old, and that's Charles the Bronx Oliveira. Charles the Bronx Oliveira is one of my favourite fighters fighting today. He's such a savage, aggressive Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt specialist. The fact he's been submitted by guys like Ricardo Lamas, Anthony Pettis, almost not because they were better BJJ fighters than him, but just because he's so aggressive with his BJJ. He just blasts you, absolutely blasts you, and like he just savagely attacks you. So just some crazy some stats for him. He's still only 29 years old. He's 27 wins and 8 losses. He's currently on a 5-fight win streak, and in that win streak he's revenged his loss to Jim Miller. He's also beaten Nick Lentz to complete out their trilogy. He's a very active guy. He's 15 and 8 wins in the UFC with 1 no contest. So he's had 24 fights in the UFC. And I believe he's got the record for most submission wins in history in the UFC. So he's a great guy. He hasn't broken that top 5 yet, but I believe he's got all the potential in the world to do it. I love Charles the Bronx Oliveira, and one thing that he showed me in his most recent fights, particularly his fight with David Tamar, is that his stand-up is improving. David Tamar, being a former world champion striker, he was actually able to beat him on the feet. And Charles Oliveira is a great guy. I believe he's well suited for 155 pounds. Really hope he can drop that 145 nonsense out of his head, and I really look forward to seeing how he progresses. But at number 2, I've got Charles Oliveira because I love his crazy BJJ style. I love him. I love the way he fights, and even when he loses, like he loses exceptionally. Like when he lost to Cub Swanson, when he lost to Paul Felder, and actually I would like to see if Paul Felder can win his next fight against Edson Barboza. I'd love to see them both run it back, but Felder might be ranked a bit higher than him at that point. But it'll be interesting to see. At number 1, I got a guy who collected so many Fight of the Night awards, was such a savage, such an animal, and he's still technically fighting now. Hasn't fought in over a year now, but he's still technically fighting now, and I think he should just call it a day. And that's Joe J-Lo Lozan. Joe Lozan burst onto the scene when he beat Jens Pulver back after Jens Pulver, had beaten BJ Penn at the time. Jens Pulver hadn't gone on his long losing streak at the time. He was a very respected fighter. Joe Lozan was a nobody. He takes out Jens Pulver and then went on to the Ultimate Fighter for some reason after that, and he was actually coached by BJ Penn, who was opposing Jens Pulver. That's an interesting bit of trivia. Kind of weird how that one played out, isn't it? But Joe Lozan had great BJJ, and he was just an animal. He would just savagely march through. One of the most impressive things I ever saw in my life was when he was fighting Jamie Varner, and Jamie Varner was giving him some trouble, so he said, "Fuck this shit," just charged through the punches, and just bit down on his gumshoes, swinging, and it was crazy. He had great submission wins. He was a great submission fighter. He got great finishes. He was just a great fighter. Joe Lozan's overall record was 27 wins with 15 losses. He's currently on a 3-fight losing streak, and actually he's 3-6 in his last 9 fights. So since beating Michael Chiesa, he has been on a steady decline, and I wish he would stop fighting at this point. Some of the key fights and some that he's had in his career, he beat Diego Sanchez, Takanori Gomi, he beat Michael Chiesa, who's still doing good things now. He beat Jamie Varner, he beat Melvin Gellard back when Gellard was relevant. He beat Jeremy Stevens. He's won 7 Fight of the Night bonuses, 1 Knockout of the Night bonus, and he beat submission and he got 6 Submission of the Night bonuses. Also, when he beat Gellard was on a run towards a title shot. So he's a great guy. So he's my number 1 fighter that was never truly, was never that top 5 title contender championship fighter. He was a solid top fighter. He was a solid mid-level fighter, and he's a guy that I had a ton of respect for, just his ability, durability, and his willingness to engage in these crazy brawls. And so those are my top 4 guys. Guys, comment below with your top 4. Anyways, guys, to move on. So as I've said, I'm not going to be doing the channel shout out today. I'm just changing paper, so I listed out some details, but this is just for the guys that had passed away. So I believe recently I had a conversation with a subscriber in my comment section. He goes by the handle Let It Ride 185. Actually, it started off by him calling me a fool, which I took no offense to. Maybe I was acting a fool, but that's cool, G. But he asked me what once we started our conversation and we got past that, we actually had a real nice conversation, and he asked me for my thoughts on the recent deaths in boxing. There's recently been 2 deaths in boxing, and he wants to know my thoughts on that. And I replied to him, but I just thought it's important for me to give condolences for these losses, because it is quite sad. It's really sad for the sport of boxing, it's just combat sports in general. So 2 young fighters, Maxim Dadashev and Hugo Santillian, have passed away recently. So I'll talk about them one by one. So Maxim Dadashev was actually fighting a title eliminator fight. He's a young man, only 28 years old. He was coming into the fight as 13-0. He lost that fight. So this was his first ever loss, and he lost by his corner called off the fight at the end of the 11th round. And it's really sad. So he leaves behind a wife and a kid. And, you know, it's kind of crazy, because when you look at a fighter like him, a young, good-looking guy, a young family, had all the potential in the world to go on to be a world champion. And sometimes in fighting, you don't really appreciate what these guys are doing. And part of the reason why I chose the discussion topic that we did is because these guys that are mid-level fighters that never make the true money that, like, Conor McGregor made, like, they're not millionaires. They never made, forget Conor McGregor, they never even made the money that guys lower on the ranking, like Sage Northcutt, would have made. But they're still there taking these beatings, these licks, these hard fights, and they're putting their health on the line for us. And the other guy that passed away was a young Argentinian young fighter whose name was Hugo Santillian. Like I said, he was only 23 years old. Now, he had a lot of fights. He had 27 fights, but he was 19 wins, 6 losses and 2 draws. I mean, no disrespect by this, but he was probably regarded as a journeyman in his career. He actually, the fight that resulted in his death was actually ended in a draw, and it was for the WBC Latino silver title. So he went in for a big title, went for big money, and he leaves behind a family as well. And it's really, really sad. And I really think it's important that we as fight fans learn to appreciate what these guys are doing for us, and how they're putting their health and what they're putting their family through. Sometimes it's very easy for us to forget that these are real people. And, you know, it's all great to want to see guys get the Rumble Johnson KOs or whatever it is, but sometimes we dehumanize a lot of the people that are on the receiving end of the knockouts, and it's really sad. It's really heartbreaking, and this is a situation that broke my heart. 2 deaths in professional boxing, 2 young men in the space of 1 weekend. There's nothing I can say that really is going to take away from that, or really will make it better for their family. And I doubt their family will ever even see this video. But I just want us as fight fans to collaboratively combat sports fan, whether you're MMA or boxing fans, are relevant. Just be able to appreciate what some of the lower level fighters do for us. How you literally don't play fighting. Your health, your life, your livelihood is on the line. You could leave behind a family that may have no opportunity to thrive without you, and particularly in these cases, you know, Maxime was a young man with a young wife and kid, and it's honestly, so my most sincere condolences to go out to both of these young men's family and children and friends and everyone that suffered from their loss. Honestly, it's heartfelt, and thoughts and prayers are with all of you guys. I'll definitely be remembering these 2 young gentlemen in my thoughts and prayers, and I just wanted to touch on that instead of giving a channel shout out for this week's as requested. So guys, I hope you guys will take a moment to give your thoughts and condolences to these families as well, and I'll be interested to know your thoughts on it as well. And guys, remember, if you're interested in seeing a video request, just comment below. Anyways guys, I hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you did enjoy watching, then give the video a thumbs up. If you don't, then give it a thumbs down, no problem. And thank you for watching, guys. Sorry for the more depressing talk at the end, but I just felt like it was important to do. And yeah, it's something that I've been touched by. It's something that I've discussed recently, but I didn't think I'd done it justice. And even just now, I can't articulate the way I feel about this. So I hope I've done my best to articulate it here, and I've done it clearly, and I've done it justice. But there's no way I can do something of this gravity justice. I am just not smart enough to be able to articulate myself well enough to be able to do a situation like this justice. But it's just something that I felt like needed to be said. Anyway, thank you for watching, guys. Mindforcombat.